Hello Infiniteers, we are back in Monstropolis, and today I'm going to finish up the build for the Monsters Inc. factory exterior, which will also finish the build exercise for this toy box. Once again, here's a screenshot of the factory from the Monsters Inc. movie. We built the parking lot, the entrance, and the scare floor buildings last time. All we have left to build are the massive building in the back, which I believe houses all of the doors, and the smokestacks and machinery on either side of that big building. Now, the front of that building is shaped like the letter M, and the M portion of the building is raised, meaning it sticks out from the front of the building by quite a bit. In the middle is the Monsters Inc. logo, which we're not going to be able to duplicate precisely, but we can capture the feel of it by recreating the eye in the middle. Above and below the logo are some horizontal lines that are kind of wide and look like they're raised as well. And at the top of the building, in the middle, it looks like there are some glass windows. Notice too, the building is deep. It extends pretty far into the background. Excuse me. Now for the smokestacks, pipes, and machinery on either side of that building, I think some of the Death Star pieces and the droid factory pieces could work well for that. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have the memory on my Wii U for that level of detail, but I think there are some simple things that we can do to recreate the look and feel of that, even if you're on a budget like I am. So this is what I'm going to build today, and let's start with that massive building in the back. And the first thing I want to do is drop down a little spacer block behind these buildings. We're going to put that right on the back here and bring it back one nudge, so half a block back. We're going to drop that there like that. That's just a little temporary block to make sure I get the spacing right. And then we're going to go over to the left to the wall pieces. And we want the large block wall. And we want this to be sitting on the back of this, so spin it around so it'll sit like that. But before we drop it, let's come out to the front, and I want to center this on this building. So about like that, centered on that door, on the ground, and go straight back. And we want to put this right on the back of that block that I dropped down a moment ago. So just like that. And if you did it right, it should be lined up with the door of the building and the street down there. And for the style on this, once again, we're going to use the Agrabah Palace stucco. And we have to scroll down a little ways to find that. Here we go. I'll set that to be my theme. There. All right, and then we can take out our little spacer block. Okay, now we're going to put two more of these on either side for a total of 5. And again, make sure they're lined up and not spun around like that. And we're going to add another row of these, and a third row. And then we're going to go up one nudge, so one block in height. Leave a gap there. We're going to put 2 more rows in here. And then we're going to leave another gap. And we're going to put 3 more rows up like that. Okay, so when you're all done, that's what you should have. And that is the inside of the M. Okay, the M is going to go around the outside of that and up over the top. All right, for these gaps, let's go back to the start of the basic blocks drawer. And we're going to get these long blocks we're going to set this in here centered like that. Put a row of these down the front. These are those two horizontal lines that are above and below the Monsters, Inc. logo. Okay. And then we'll grab the tall block. And let me get my screen grab here, make sure I get this right. Okay. So on here, we want to line this up like this. We want to go all the way down to the ground. And I'm just trying to give you a good look at how this is positioned. And we're just going to stack these up all the way to the top. And let's see. Yeah. Just not that last one. Take that out. Okay, so only up that high. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So once again, line it up with the edge of that wall. Start on the ground and just start building upward. Oops, and not the last one. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put another set of these on the front. And let me make sure I get this right. Trying to find my screen grab here. Sorry about that. All right. Let's come down here. And we want to start about like that. Okay? And actually, yeah, that is right. I could have started at the bottom. And this is what's going to give this the raised appearance that we want. That row in the back, this column in the back, was designed to plug the gap that you'd otherwise see. If we only put those on the front, you can see we'd have a gap back behind there. And so that's why we have this column. But we'll go ahead and run these all the way down. The little flick trick doesn't want to work going down. Okay, so that is how we're going to get the outside part of the M to look raised from the rest of that. And then this cross beam and the one above it are a little bit sunk in because in the screenshot those don't protrude as far as the M on the outsides. Alright, now to get the shape of the M, we're going to drop down a little block right here, right below the first cross beam there. We're going to do that on either side. And we're going to grab this long wedge, put one in on either side, and then we'll grab the ramp block, put that in like so. Okay. And then underneath that, we'll put in one of these little cross beams. These little long blocks. And then we need to make that stand out, and I don't have enough room here for another one. So we'll need to use these smaller blocks for that. Okay. So now that's starting to take shape. Now let's pick this piece up here and put it back. That gets us back to that part of the drawer. And now we need to spin this around so that it can sit on the front of this. And we're going to put the first one right here. Okay. And this one comes down onto the ground. And we're going to put 2 more over like this. So a total of 3 of those. And then we're going to run these all the way up to the top. This is the width of the left side of the M. I don't know if you can hear the rattling sound in the background, but I have a sprinkler or something running, and it's making the pipes rattle. Alright, so that's as high as we want to go. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. So it's going to be 2 wide out here, all the way down. And this is giving us the general shape of the building on the front. I have a neighbor next door who's mowing, so I don't know if you can hear his lawnmower going. A lot of noise today while I'm trying to record. But there we go. There is the basic shape of the building, except for the top of it. All right. Now, before we put the top on, let's put the sides on. And in order to do that, we're going to go down to the terrain drawer, and we want this tall, narrow terrain block. We're going to drop this in right up on the side of this building, just like that. Okay? So we're going to put the first one down, and we're going to style this using the Tomorrowland theme. And I've got that power disc down on the base. If you do not have that power disc, anything with a gray side would probably work, or a beige side. So possibly, you don't want anything stone, but that's going to be granite. This is going to be brick. You could maybe use Monsters University campus, so that's going to give you that interesting brick. You could use the kiln. You could use the Imperial Space Station. That's probably your best bet as an alternative. But the best thing that I've found is the Tomorrowland power disc. So we're going to stack 2 of those up, and then we're going to do the same thing on this side. And that gives us the depth of the building that we want. And you'll notice it hangs off the back edge of the terrain. That's okay. Players probably are not going to see that, so I'm not really worried about it. All right. There we go. Okay, now let's work on the front of the building. So we'll go back up to the blocks drawer. And let's pick up this tall block here and put it back, which gets us back to this part of the drawer. And the first thing I want to look for is this little balcony piece. Okay, and we're going to bring this up and drop this right here like this. We're going to do this on both sides. And then we'll come back over, and we're looking for this upside down wedge. That's the next one we're going to put in, and we're going to put 2 of those actually, like that. And another one shaped like this. Okay. And then basically mirror that on the other side. And something isn't quite right here. Oh, I see. Okay, so we'll bring this over and bring this over half a block. Like that. This piece shouldn't be right up next to that. It should be a half a block away. Okay, So now you have that. All right, now we're going to make this section here a little bit wider. So we're going to put some of these up here. Just kind of stair step those, and again mirror that on both sides. And then a smaller one on the outside. Mirror that on both sides. And then we'll come back over to our long wedge and just do a little stair step up to the top. And spin this around and drop one down. And then do the exact same thing on this side. Just creating a mirror image of what we just did. Okay, and there we go. There is the top of the M for the Monsters, Inc. building. Now you'll notice there are some gaps under here. I'm not really worried about that because the player, unless they're flying up there, they're not going to see that. This gap, though, they will see right up here. And so we need to put a few blocks on the back side of this in order to make sure that no gaps are going to be visible. And so what I want to do here is we're going to kind of mirror part of the roof structure here. Like that. Okay. And we're just putting in another row of these blocks to plug any potential gaps there. So now when we look at this, oops, from below, there's no gaps up there. And that looks much better. Okay, that is starting to look really, really good. That's the basic shape of the building. Now, for a couple of details, you remember we had these windows that were up here. Now, you can leave it like this, I think, and that's going to look pretty good. But if you'd like to try to duplicate those windows, what you can do is take these 9 blocks here, and you can change the style on this to use the disco ball surface. And I think that will give you the little windows. I'll go ahead and apply that. That'll give you the look of the little windows that you saw in the screen grab. And as you're styling this, they're going to look kind of greenish. And that's because you can sort of see through these blocks when you do this. And what's behind it is the green grass in the sky dome. As you can see beyond the top of the building there. But the players aren't going to be looking at it from this direction. And so we finish styling the last one here. When you look at this from the ground, that looks a little better. So you kind of have some windows there. They're a little blue for my liking, again, because I think it's picking up the color in the sky. So I actually left the whole thing with the Agrabah Palace stucco on the build that I showed you in the playthrough. But I think that looks pretty good too. And if you like that better, you can leave that. I think that adds some nice detail to that building. And the last detail on the building is the Monsters, Inc. logo, which, as I said at the start of the video, we can't duplicate precisely, but I think we can get something that's pretty close. So we're going to come to the middle of the building here, And again, we're between those two parallel lines. So come to the middle, go up to the top. This is going to stick out a little ways. We're going to drop it down one nudge and drop our first block there. And let's change the theme on this. We're going to use the modern theme. And from the disco ball, I have to go back to the right. And I'll set that to be my theme. Okay. And then we're going to drop another one in the same spot down here in the middle of that block. And then we're going to kind of build a little eye shape. So if we put two of those like that, and two of these wedges up here like this, and we can use the little balcony piece. Let's see, that way. And drop that under here like this. And swing this around. We're going to drop another one out here like this, which you'll see why in just a moment. If we come back and pick up our ramp block and turn this around, now you'll see that's kind of filling in the corner of the eye there. Like that, except I goofed. This should have been over. Like that. And the same thing with the other side. As you can see, that's starting to look pretty good. That's giving us the shape of the eye that's in the Monsters, Inc. logo. All we need now, after I move this last block in place, is the pupil. And for that, if we go to the right, we have this curved block. That will serve as the top of the pupil. And if you go a little further over to the right, we have this upside down curved block. That gives us the bottom of it. And there we go. There's our Monsters, Inc. building. And I think that looks pretty good. All right. The last thing we have to do then is the machinery. And again, I think the pieces that are going to work best for this are in Building Sets Group 5. We have all of these droid factory pieces. And there's a lot of good shapes here. I'm going to use this one. Let me put this down for a moment. But you have that. You've got some of these taller pieces. Got a lot of good shapes here with some good detail. And if you go left a little further, you gotta go past the Tatooine buildings and past the Numancian Island buildings and the Star Command buildings. And you come to some of these pipes. So this is kind of a nice one. This would probably work really well as your smokestacks. We have this tower piece. We've got some shorter little pipe pieces. And so if you have the memory on your system, you can kind of go nuts with those pieces and make some really interesting things. Look at the screen grab that we had earlier in the video and just see what you can recreate with it. But since I don't have the memory really on my system, if you'll notice, the memory meter on the right is starting to get up there. I'm going to go for something a little simpler, and I'm just going to use this and kind of duplicate this. And so what I want to do here is we're going to come out, we're going to come over to the edge of the block here, about the middle of this block. And yeah, let's go back a little bit. Come back about like that. And we're just going to put a row of these down. Oops. And I'm going to put them right up next to each other. Like that. Okay. And then we're going to take every other one of these and we're going to move it out to the front. So we create kind of a staggered look. So by putting them in a row right next to each other, that gives us the spacing that we want between each of these. So it's a consistent space. And then by sliding these out, that just creates a little depth to the scene. Okay. And then we're going to basically do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to come over here to the other side of the building and put one of them right up here on the edge of that terrain scene. And then just run a row of these down. You don't need to go all the way to the end of the terrain. I think this is probably far enough, because again we got the buildings over there. And so every other one of these, we'll just slide these out. And let's just kind of make sure, because I'm a stickler for this. Alright, so I'm out one little nudge too far. By the way, don't worry that the building is hollow. Players aren't going to see that anyway. So we're going to slide that back one little nudge. And let's just swing this around so we can make sure we line all these up. And again, just take every other one, slide it out, create a second row of these things. So this doesn't look exactly like what we have in the movie, but it gives the idea. And I think it looks pretty good. And there we go. And I think that's enough to recreate the look and feel of the machinery that was in that screenshot that we saw earlier. Again, even if it doesn't match it that closely. Now, if you're on a system with more memory, as I said, feel free to use some more of those Death Star pipes and towers and the droid factory pillars to create something that looks more like the movie. I would do that if I could, but you can see again on the right that my memory meter is starting to get full, and I need to leave enough room for Mike's car, the race, the townspeople, and the enemies. Unfortunately, we don't have unlimited memory, and so I have to choose what's most important to me, and I would much rather use the memory to populate the city and give the players some things to do than to recreate the exact look of the movie. So I think this is close enough. But with that, the build exercise for this toy box is now finished. Next time, we'll start working on the logic for the CDA mission to round up the children that are on the loose. Before you go, please hit the like button and leave a comment to let me know what you think of this build, and my entire recreation of Monstropolis for that matter. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.